Hey Misfit, let's talk about 7 profitable Amazon FBA niches to start selling into. I'm going to be revealing the exact niches that are proven. And I know this because I've helped others to succeed in them many times before. And I'm even going to be firing up Jungle Scout and doing a deep dive into some real numbers to show you what I mean. So let's get started. All right, so I get a little bit creeped out by doing videos like this because I feel like they convey the wrong idea that somehow selling on Amazon is easy. You just pick one of these super easy products and you kind of go for it. And it really couldn't be sort of further from the truth. If it was easy, I think a lot of people would be multimillionaires, and then it would be no value in you watching a video like this in the first place, right? So one of the things that I'm looking at when I'm giving you these niches, the niches that I'm going to give you, I have qualifications for what they are. And the qualifications are, one, that I've had a hand in pulling in millions with them. So I know that they work. There's no guessing for me. So my qualifications for anything that I'm going to say of the 7 I'm going to reveal to you here is that I've seen them be succeeded from many different angles. That means that you can find some way to succeed within them. That's why I bring them up. They're not just these one-time things, like this that you've seen before as like a fidget spinner. That's definitely a niche product, but it's also dead. Right? It was exciting, it happened for a little bit and then kind of went away. And the other one is that they're not a flash in the pan, meaning that you have the ability to kind of enter into these and get going in a way that really makes sense for you and for your business. So that's my qualifications. I have these 3 qualifications on hand that I've had a hand in pulling in millions. There's multiple sellers succeeding from different angles that I've worked with, and also that they're not a flash in the pan. All right, so let's go ahead and dig into the first niche, and I'm gonna take you behind the scenes and show you some cool stuff. Even within using one of the tools, my favorite tool is Jungle Scout, I'll show you some details that'll help you with this whole process. All right, here we go. Now, the first one is beauty niche, and specifically topicals. So into Jungle Scout here, and one of my favorite little fun tools, a new fun tool that I'm sort of enjoying is this Niche Hunter. And as it populates here in just a second, you're going to see that we have a bunch of different options as far as categories. And you can just go ahead and select any of those. So if we get into this and we kind of jump in with something like this and click into the beauty right there on there as far as a category, then we can start to do some research into that category. So when we're thinking topicals, one of the things, the easiest thing to think of is some kind of cream. You type in the word cream and you're gonna come up with a bunch of different searches here that kind of take you all over the place. But one of the things that I want to do first of all is I want to make sure that we're sorting by average units sold. And the reason that I do that is because I am only interested in products that have a lot of sales. So I clicked it once and it took it and sorted it by lowest to highest, and we actually want to go the opposite, which is highest to lowest. And looking here that we can see a couple of unique things. First of all, we can see a lot of units are sold per month, all right? So that's a good part. There's also a ton of competition, all right? When we look at that, there's a ton of competition. You need to learn to not be afraid of competition. That doesn't mean you need to like always go head on with competition. There are a number of different ways to do that. I think I've pointed some out in my other videos. I also point them out inside of my group where I go into a little bit of details on that. If you haven't had a chance yet, I highly suggest you go over there and join this. This is a beta group that has just started up, as a matter of fact, and I go into a bunch of different things. I do weekly live trainings where I go into very specific details and answer questions and all of that kind of stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll give you the link in the description below. I'm not here to pitch the group, but I go into actual marketing inside of there. This is more focused on these niches. All right, so one of the things we can just see is just by going through this, we can see that there are, obviously a bunch of keywords and all this. But one of the things I'm seeing right here is this term facial joy cream. That's been a good one that's done really well. I've done a lot of work in that. So if we just kind of type this in, facial cream, we'll and do a little bit of searching here, and I'm going to keep this average units sold here so that we can make sure we're looking for things that have a lot of sales in them. So like on something like facial cream. Now, one of the things that I'm going to notice here right away is as I look at this, just giving you a little bit of what I'm seeing here. These blanks tell me that there's some people that have entered into the market and they're maybe just doing some alternate selling. But what I like about this, and when in general, is I see these kind of numbers: 373 $1,000 in sales, and this is per month, right? So there's some money in there. You're talking over $250,000, close to $250,000, well over $500,000, $750,000 per month. Now that's kind of cool. What I'm not necessarily always super excited about is seeing big brands like this. CeraVe is a pretty big brand. Bloomy isn't, which is kind of interesting. So that's kind of cool. Anti-aging, when it's talking, is kind of cool with that. I like that I can see something like this. So this is kind of when I talk about markets that I'm sort of interested in, I like this. Marianne, maybe a bigger brand. I'm actually not too familiar with these brands as far as what's going on with this specific thing. Neutrogena is, but I can see that there are a bunch of different brands here. It's not occupied by the same brand, which is good to me, and there's money. Like, that's the big thing for me, is that there's money in there. Now, that said, that money is not always necessarily easy to get, and that's why I wanted to talk about sort of the beginner's beware portion of this training. When we're going into, looking at some of these details, I think, a tendency that I've seen recently is to look at things like this. And this is, we talk about the opportunity score. I'm on Jungle Scout right here. We're looking at these. And if you go on the Jungle Scout Chrome extension and pop into any of these links, what you're going to see is this opportunity score. You've probably heard of this already. This is not anything new, the opportunity score. But what I'm about to tell you is, and so you need to be a little bit careful about this right here. And this is that this score, when you see these opportunity scores, they make product selection really easy. Now that may sound like, Sean, that's great. Product selection becomes easy. I can find something that has medium demand with low competition, or high demand with low competition. That may sound awesome, but here's the thing. So can everyone else. Everyone else can see that exact same thing. They can go on Jungle Scout, pop that in there and go like, oh, I can find something, and just do enough sorting to find information that has this kind of medium demand or high demand and low competition. Then what happens is, and this has happened way too often with a lot of beginners that I've helped and consulted with and just helped, kind of build their businesses, they get super excited about this kind of a thing when they see opportunity scores and these 8s and 9s opportunity scores, and they're just like, oh goodness, I got to do this. And they're just so slow on the uptake to get the listings live, to get the products in, to deal with the logistics. So what happens is, someone's already entered into the market, or 12 people have entered into the market, and by the time they get there, the others already have established reviews. Amazon loves them because they've been sending traffic to them and they're converting, and it just becomes too hard to compete. So the problem with easy buttons like this, and I call these easy buttons, it's just a phrase, but an easy button like this is that if it's easy, it's a low barrier to entry item. I can go find this thing and get up and running quick. So can every other person that's out there. I can find it, understand it, and go something quick. So this kind of stuff is, when I see this kind of, information on a screen and stuff like that, I actually get the heebie-jeebies. I get freaked out. I get like, I do not want to head down this path. It reminds me of that old quote by Dale Carnegie, this is attributed to him, that when he was talking to a shoe shine boy, and a shoe shine boy told him, hey, you ought to go buy XYZ stock because I heard it's going to be great. And when he got to the office, he said, sell every share of XYZ stock that I've got, because if the man on the street knows about it, it's already too late. So that's kind of what I mean. There's this kind of information. When I'm seeing this, and everyone in the world can have access to this, I don't know how many people subscribe to Jungle Scout. I love Jungle Scout. I use it in a different way than this. I don't use the opportunity score whatsoever. It's not something that I find useful to me, and I get actually scared by it, because that means every other person in the world sees this, and they're going to be in that market really quick. And then that opportunity score is going to go from medium demand with low competition to medium demand with high competition, and then all of a sudden you're dying out. And that's why I'm looking for bigger numbers, right? I'm looking for these kind of bigger numbers. Now that said, this is harder to market. This is by far harder to market, and you've got to kind of know your marketing. So that means you either got to know it yourself, or be connected with someone who does. If you're going to enter into a market like this, you kind of got to know what you're doing, and that's why I said at the beginning, sort of that beginner's beware. I'm going to take you into niches that actually make money and are useful and valuable. Now, when I see facial brand, I start to think facial cream. I'm like, well, what other parts of the body might be useful to that? Okay, elbow cream. All right, and just see what that one kind of jumps up with us here. Okay, elbow cream. Oh, look at that. Good numbers. All right. Pure Organica, Aquaphor, Eucerin, Urea Cream. Okay. Now, this is kind of cool to me. Urea Cream, this isn't really a brand, which I love about this. It's not really a brand, but yet it's kind of making some money. Not a ton of money, but it's making good money. So if you can afford that, Glytone, never heard of that. And I can tell by this image right here, they don't know what they're doing. And so that's even good and encouraging to me. This guy's making $10,000 a month without knowing what they're doing as far as image design. And I just want to say, that's a good sort of, like when you're thinking about niches, I want to think a little bit broader, things that will last a little bit longer as far as time. And I'll explain a little bit more on that on the next one, but let's go ahead and take you to niche number 2, dog grooming. So, as you may know, pets are a very personal thing to people. They get very excited about them. They're very passionate. So that's why this niche, I've seen this sort of over and over again, produced good results for that. Let's go ahead and jump into Jungle Scout and see kind of what we're talking about. Okay, so we're back into Jungle Scout. We're going to go ahead and into that Niche Hunter. I really like this Niche Hunter. I think it's just a fun program to kind of mess with and get in here and see some numbers. So we're going to look for pet supplies, obviously, and what we're going to look for is, let's talk about dogs, and then we're talking about grooming. I'm thinking about this because I've had to do this in the past where you have to cut their nails, and that's kind of like a very scary process. So we're going to go to dog nails. Nail clip. Let's just do clip and see what happens with that. All right. Dog nail clip. Well, that was probably a little bit too specific, but maybe we could have done clippers. Okay, but that's not bad. So what I like about this is, first of all, I'm seeing some numbers in here, real numbers. Again, I'm looking at, kind of like these 13,000, 23,000, and 245,000. And there's so many lessons to be had by this, just discussing what we're seeing right here on this page, 183,000. So when I see this, a couple thoughts are, first of all, when I see 183,000, I'm seeing some doing like really low numbers next to nothing. It tells me that this market is moving on as far as being not a beginner market where it's at that inflection point. That speaks to a point that probably needs to be covered here just a little bit, is that all products have a life cycle, like this. This is what a product life cycle might look back. In the beginning, there's just a little bit of, maybe if someone has a little bit of knowledge that this may be a cool thing to solve some problems, and then there's this inflection point where things just begin to take off, and then they grow really rapidly, and then at the top, where everyone sort of enters into the market, more and more competitors enter into that market, and all of a sudden the market becomes saturated, and so many competitors are in there that it ends up falling, or people just aren't as excited about it anymore, and the product market falls. So the product market life cycle. And so this life cycle can last, it can last, months, maybe months. When you look at the case of this product, had a very fast product life cycle. It came on, it was sort of exciting, at the beginning of the year, Christmas time, then it took off. By the time you hit May or something like that, it was already done. But I know people are making money here, right? This is real money. We're not talking, small amounts of money with a fidget spinner, which everyone's probably making like $10 a month or whatever the case is. This is real money, and that's why I point you to this niche. That's why I point you to niches like this. I would be looking for, hey, what are problems that people are having that no one's quite addressed yet, or are just beginning to address? What are the problems that are sort of on, this beginning inflection point of the market? What are problems that are just being addressed right down here in this space? That maybe people haven't quite realized yet that I can be in on, I can start to get reviews, I can gain and really start to be in a position later on. So that's sort of an advanced way. When I'm talking about these niches, there's growth potential into them. There's money to be made into them. That doesn't mean it's easy to market into. I've already discussed that. And you can jump into our group and learn a little bit more about that kind of stuff. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to point you to niches that have longevity, as opposed to thinking on a per product basis, thinking about like one product or whatever. This kind of stuff, when we're talking about, niches, also speaks to people. We're targeting people who are dog owners. How many products can you launch into dog grooming? You may find when you're looking for, sort of like on this sort of like opportunity hunter here kind of a thing, you're thinking on a product level basis. You're thinking like, this one product I can launch and be up and running today, right? That's you're thinking on a per product basis. And again, it's kind of like this situation back with the garage sales. You find the product, you launch it, you're done. You've got a leaking bucket. You've got to go constantly fill that bucket. But if you start to think a little bit differently, a little bit broader, like dog grooming, I will serve in the dog grooming niche. then you can stay there and you can make lots of money. We're seeing that there's money to be made, obviously, in this niche. You can make lots of money and launch more products because all you're thinking about is one thing. What solves the pain of people that have dogs and they have to groom their dogs? You can launch product after product after product into that niche and make money because people are always going to be coming back to solve that problem because dogs are important to them. So I'm asking you just to do a little bit of a switch. Instead of thinking about a product to launch, think about the niche and stay within the niche and just serve that niche. Become the expert in that niche. And you can find a niche that is important to you, that maybe has a pain point. So that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Let's go on to niche number 3, supplements, specifically health supplements. So I love this niche in general. I've seen tons and tons of success. Some of my first clients that were like the 5% top seller clients ever were in this space. So it's a difficult space. It's not an easy space to get into. You actually have to qualify into it, so you need to be aware of that. You actually need to submit labs and all this kind of stuff to be certified to go into the space. And the reason is very simple, because things are going to enter the human body and there's just dangers with that. So you need to be careful. So that's a sort of the beginner's beware situation you need to be aware of, is that these supplements, getting into the supplement space requires a little bit more time, requires some effort, requires a little bit more knowledge than maybe you have experienced before. But again, remember we talked about those barriers to entry and also the marketing that kind of needs to go with them. But I think as you're going to see when we get into it, there's one of those pathways that's a little bit more wide open. So we're back in Jungle Scout, we're a niche finder, nothing new here. And I'm just kind of scrolling down this page, a little bit just looking for things that maybe I haven't, kind of seen before. And all right, okay. So this one, okay. So this is good. Now, one of the things that I like about this is a number of things. We're seeing real money here, and again, this is the kind of numbers that I've pretty much accustomed to in this space. When you're talking about real things. So what I like about this immediately is it's open. The path's open. You're not fighting against a market. Obviously, there's a market here, and it kind of reminds me of the story by Gary Halpert. Gary Halpert's a great copywriter, great marketer, and he's passed away now. He's one of those masters that I go and steal from. Remember that Picasso quote? And Gary talked about. Remember he was talking to one of his audience of students, and he said, suppose you're going to create a hamburger stand on a beach. It's a beachfront hamburger stand, and you're sitting there thinking, now what do you need to succeed as a beachfront hamburger stand? And the students would all sit around and go, oh, you need to have a great hamburger. You need to have a great location. You need to have quality meat. You need to have the secret sauce or whatever that is. And Gary Halpert replied in this way, which I thought is one of the most astounding quotes ever. He says, "You missed the most important thing, a starving crowd. Your job is to find that starving crowd who can't live without what it is that you have to offer." Now, when I look at this and I see these kind of numbers, I see a starving crowd. I see people that are absolutely willing to go nutty and spend money to be in that crowd, okay? And so that's really kind of what we're talking about, is this idea of a starving crowd, and the crowd that you can then end up serving over and over again. So people that are concerned about their health, again, that's a very near and dear subject, especially for not so much maybe even for younger people, but when you're talking performance supplements, definitely. When you're talking general health supplements, as you get older, those concerns sort of are top of mind in general consistently, right? So that's why when you're seeing this, you're seeing numbers. These numbers are just reflecting emotions. These numbers are just reflecting a reality of what people are concerned about on a daily basis. When you see numbers like this, there's something deeply stirring about what's going on there. And that's what I'm encouraging you to sort of reposition what you're thinking in your brain when it comes to, what kind of products you should launch and sell and what niches to be involved with. You need to find that starving crowd. These kind of numbers speak to that kind of starving crowd. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Let's go ahead and go on to number 4. Groceries, specifically imported groceries. I'm so excited about this, first of all, because I'm giving you stuff I guarantee no one else is covering out there. It's because I just love helping if any way I can and just taking from my personal experience. And that's probably why it's unique. I just have a ton of very strange personal experience. But groceries, man, this is a great one. And I say imported specifically because I have a lot of experience in that, sort of competing right up the middle against things that are already existing, like ketchup or anything like that. If it's American ketchup, you're gonna have a hard time. But imported ones become interesting. And I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna take you to Jungle Scout before I do that. Before I do, I want to just point out a couple of things here. First of all, you're going to notice a little bit of a trend. Beauty topicals, supplements, groceries, all of these require category approval. All of them require that you have labs to sell. You're going to notice those high barrier to entry markets. You're going to also notice that's the risk. That's the stuff you have to do, but you're also going to notice the rewards. Let's kind of jump into some of this right here on Jungle Scout. So we're going to go over to the grocery item. Where is it here? Here's groceries. And let's just pick and market. I love Japanese food. I just had it yesterday. So let's go ahead and, okay, first of all, again, we jump back into this. Let's make sure we get into this. Have our average units sold up towards the top there. And then let's just go ahead and look for special Japanese food. Wow, that's kind of an interesting one. Let's just see if that might be something of interest there. I'm just kind of poking around. Okay. So now, some of the things that I'm noticing in here immediately are just some fairly high numbers, 131,000, 480,000 a month, all of this kind of stuff. Now, one of the reasons I love sort of this market is this speaks to something that may be unique to you. So maybe you have a connection in Japan. Maybe you have a connection in Costa Rica or something like that, where you can sort of set up this a win-win scenario with someone back there to get some of those items, pull them in, and bring them into the United States. Now, I would suggest you do market research on that. That's a whole separate topic. I covered inside the group. Also, it's something that I've covered on a few videos out here as well too. But it's make sure you're doing that market research. Spend the time, even spend money on market research so that you know in advance whether there's a market there or not. Again, it's like we talked about just a second ago, was you want to make sure that you're finding that starving crowd. And so numbers will help you determine that. And then if you're kind of not sure, but doing some of that market research, even just kind of what we're doing right now, let's go into this. So noticing on here what's on the page, you're just noticing there's actual numbers here and very specific items and stuff like that. But what I'm also noticing here is I just love this Japanese snacks assortment. So if you had, a background, you're Japanese or your mom's Japanese or you have family still in Japan or something like that, and you notice these snacks, or you just got back and visited them on a mission trip or something like that, and you notice like they have all these snacks and maybe people are liking them, and you go to one of the food markets that are here in the States that host Japanese food, and you're like, man, these seem to be selling well, and I can get this. I have a connection back there to be able to do that. That's one of these options. You're looking at this, and this is just almost like giving you a taste of Japan. It's offering something unique, taking a bunch of things and bundling. So maybe even just taking those out, buying them in bulk as whole units, taking them out and making an assorted pack of them. Like, look at those numbers. That's not actually bad numbers when you're talking about monthly numbers. Down here, even just like a Crave Box Care package or something like that, 400. You're doing about $500,000 per month on that. So that's one of the reasons that I love this. And you can go dig through this. Go ahead and jump into Jungle Scout and find yourself. Use the niche finder to kind of do some of the research and maybe type in a nation that you're more familiar with and looking for those particular kind of foods. But this is one of those great markets and great opportunities that a lot of people don't think about. Again, I think I'm bringing you the stuff that no one else is bringing you when you're talking about these niches in some very specific detail. Let's go on to niche number 5. Office products, big or fixes. Let me kind of explain what I mean by that. We jump into Jungle Scout here, and again, we're looking at, pick the category, we've already done that. I'm gonna look at office chairs just because I thought it would be like super easy and it makes sense, and I think it would cover a few of them that we've got going on. But just scrolling through this, we can see that there's a number of good sales. Again, that competition is high. You notice one of the things that as a theme with all of these products that I'm picking, these niches that I'm picking, the competition is high. All right, that means that there's money already flowing in there. It's a red ocean. Now, you need to know how to market when you're doing with that kind of stuff, and so that's why one of the reasons why I'm telling you the group. It's another reason I've been kind of really working hard behind the scenes to develop up this, which is the $1 million e-com conversion system. It's not ready yet, but I am super excited about that because that basically is going to be how to market in these super competitive red ocean niches and get some of this money. But getting back to what's going on inside of Jungle Scout, we can see that this is a fairly competitive market, and I'm just looking. Oh, look at this. This one's interesting to me. Now, this one sticks out for this reason, because we're kind of looking at chairs, whatever. These have some brand chairs, but one of the reasons this stick out is for wheels. And, again, some pretty good numbers. I don't think I was disappointed by these at all. Look at this. Look at this. So part of the things that I like about this is two thoughts here on this. One, this is solving a problem. It may not be obvious at first, but what happens is when you're looking at these wheels is someone had an issue with the wheels on their current chair and are like on Amazon right now searching for, hey, I have a problem with my wheels. I'd like to have better wheels on my chair. Maybe the chair is good. It's comfortable. I don't sit in chairs. I sit on couches because I'm a sloucher. But if I had an office chair, that's what I'd be looking for. And looking at this, and maybe they're thinking like, oh, hey, that could be useful. And maybe they're super excited about coming in here and finding something that would roll better on carpet, maybe wouldn't snag, wouldn't pull, or maybe they've had one that the dog chewed up or something like that. But obviously there's a problem that they're looking for this kind of a solution, and I love that. And one of the things I love of this is look right here on this one. You actually have a chair, Furmax. Never heard of it. Maybe a great brand. I have no idea, but it's doing $750,000 per month. $750,000 per month. That's a pretty good amount of gross sales per month. $750,000. Now, what you're going to notice about this is, if you're able to infer what's going on, this is not small. It's not a small item. A chair is not a small item. And this gets back to my whole thing. If you're going to look over all of the niches that I've talked about, sorry, let me get you back up here, to all the niches that I've talked about here, they're not necessarily easy to get into. This one requires category approval. This requires category approval. This requires category approval. Office product, if it's big, doesn't necessarily require category approval, but it requires you to understand your logistics, how to pack that up and ship it in, and it's going to be in the oversized category, the oversized product category. It's going to be one of the realities, but that's a barrier to entry that you must consider overcoming if you don't want to be stuck back with the people who are trying to sell this kind of a thing and then overcome this kind of a cycle that's going to happen really, really fast, right? You sell this because everyone in the world can find it. You may be able to get in and make a few bucks, but you're also going to have to find a new product really quickly, and then you're back to this situation where it's the same thing as a hustle. You're just going to have to find a new product, launch it, find a new product, launch it, find a new product, launch it. Now, let me say this. You should be finding new products and launching all the time, but if you find the right products that have a little bit of longevity, like what's going on here, like look at this. Who's going to need another office chair? Like someone's going to need an office chair. Who's going to have problems with their office chair and are going to need a solution like that? That's why these products do well, and because there's a high demand for it. For them in the first place. That's why they're there and looking for them. And again, part of your whole intention is when you're looking for stuff is you want to find the starving crowd, right? You want to find where people are already looking for something. These kind of numbers tell you that that's already happening. So that's a great product for those two reasons. And this kind of reminds me a little bit of the story of the Hunt brothers. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Hunt brothers, but you're talking about a starving crowd. The Hunt brothers began buying up silver. This is a chart of the silver markets in the late 70s. They kind of really started adding in their positions to silver because what was happening is they were having gasoline problems where people were worried about that, and America had just gone off the gold standard where originally like the dollar that you have in your pocket was backed by a certain amount of gold sitting in the reserve at Fort Knox, and they went off that, so they could just print as much money as they wanted to. That meant the inflation started to enter into the market, and the Hunt brothers began to realize like, hey, people are going to be looking for things that's more secure than the dollar bill, because a dollar bill isn't going to be worth $1 in gold anymore. It's worth whatever the government says it is and how many ever they print and put into the market. And they knew the gold was going to go up, so they started buying position. Now, the reason I point out this chart is not for a history lesson. The reason I point out this chart is to say that anyone that got into the market somewhere in here in the 20s, 10s, 15s, or 20s was going to make money because the market was going nutty. the market was going up at a rapid pace. Again, there was a starving market for more and more silver. This was the silver market. The Hunt brothers were in this, and they made a huge amount of money right up until this point. So anyone that got here in this point, somewhere in this point, was a financial genius, right? You didn't have to be a financial genius. You just bought silver, rode it because the market was moving in your direction. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. When I see numbers like this on Jungle Scout, it tells me that there's a market there already. I'm not having to guess. Right? I'm not having to guess. There's a market there. Now, how soon it will be over, I don't know. You'd have to decide. Are office chairs going to be around for a while? Are they moving on to something else? That might be something to be aware of, and you would have to be a little bit more cognizant of that. But I would say reasonably, office chairs are going to be around for a while. But this tells me that there's money in that market, right? And that's what we're looking for. You don't have to be a genius if you're finding the right market in a starving crowd. You don't have to be like, I found this one little crazy product that was super exciting, became the next fidget spinner or anything like that. All right, end the lesson on that. Let's go ahead and get on to number 6 is pain management. I'm speaking specifically about support when it comes to actual physical items. You could go supplements as well too, although I think that's a slightly more competitive niche than maybe you'd want to get into, but one that I've had success with. So we're coming into Niche Hunter. We're going to go into health and household. And what we're going to link up is a pain that's specific, maybe that you've even dealt with. My wife has dealt with extreme neck pain, so maybe we'll just start there and go with extreme neck pain. We'll just go neck pain. Okay, neck pain, and I'm going to do a search on that. All right, so average units sold, because again, we're looking for sale. Okay, so now what I love about this is kind of a little bit silly here. I'm going to get super nerdy on this. When people are typing searches into the Amazon search bar, they're oftentimes not fully aware of what they're looking for. They actually just have problems, right? I love this phrase. Look at here, decreased neck and back pain. Nothing could speak to that more than just decreasing neck and back pain. Like, I have neck and back pain, I want to decrease it, right? So that is a search that people have actually entered into, decreased neck and back pain. Now, okay, so what I love about this also is now I'm seeing a bunch of products here. Look at some of these numbers. Again, you know, we want to make sure that there is an actual market for us here. You know, we want to go where there's a starving crowd. It looks like $250,000 a month, a third of $1 million a month, over $750,000 a month. What's this one? Another over 3/4. You're looking at some good numbers here. And what I like about this is you enter that silly search term, which is decreased neck and back pain. What we're getting is a bunch of products here. You can tell that people are like searching for this and allows for space to enter into. Now these obviously nothing's happening, but maybe something like that could work. Look at this Mighty Bliss, never heard of it. I love that. Sunbeam heating pad. All right, so heating pads can work. Neck stretcher is an interesting one. Only $50,000, but you know, I think a lot of people would kill for a $50,000 a month business. I don't know about you, that's just under $1 million a year, so that's not a bad thing. Glucosamine, again, if you want to look at the supplement space, is not bad. TENS, using TENS units, which are little electronic pulse kind of a thing. They're using that and targeting it specifically. These posture correctors, Kaposis posture correctors, they've been around for a few years, so the fact that they're still doing a good amount of money. Massagers for the neck, obviously, is a kind of an interesting one too. So again, what I love about this whole thing is it really just speaks to a niche. It speaks to a place where you could go and say, I'm going to become the neck pain specialist. I'm going to be all about neck pain. Maybe it's like, you know, my wife's neck pain inspired me on where she had a collapsed disc and actually had to go get a surgery and had to suffer with that pain and still kind of does a little bit today. Thinking about that kind of driving you on and going, I'm going to become the neck pain specialist of the world and just figure out what I can do to solve these problems. Imagine how many products you could launch. Just on this page right here, I'm seeing weird products. You've got the actual, whatever this is, the Mighty Bliss, you've got the heating pad, you put maybe, and thinking again like this, if I'm solving bigger problems, could I put these two things together? Could I create a heated pad with this Mighty Bliss? Maybe that is, I don't know, maybe, it is a heating pad in that. So someone figured out a heating pad that specifically does that. Or even could I, you know, do this neck stretcher and a heating pad together and combine them and make something that does $1 million a year, or anything like that. So that's kind of what I really want to encourage you on. This is a great space, anything to do, and I'm not just talking necks, I'm talking anything to do with any pain, and there's a support, there's a physical product that goes along with that is another great one that I've just seen tons of results into and can be extremely helpful. So, all right, continuing on, number 7, we're just around the corner, but hey, listen, before we go to number 7, and I've got a bonus for you coming up on that. Before we go to number 7, if you've watched this far, go ahead and like and subscribe, because that lets you be able to find out when these videos come live. You can find out more if they're useful to you. It also lets me know if I'm providing good value, and I'll create more of the videos of those types. So go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, hit the bell, and as we go into number 7, sports, and specifically training gear, training equipment, all of that kind of stuff. I still remember the first time I had any exposure to this. I was working in one of the first ever Amazon marketing agencies that even existed way back in the day. Sort of like, it was cutting edge. I would say it's cutting edge, but really I was stuffed in this ugly corner of a warehouse office space. It was dingy, dark walls, and we just had to like work on cranking out marketing. It was nothing elegant or anything like that. But I was handed these 2 fiberglass rods. They were fiberglass rods about 3 feet long, and they were bright yellow, and it's like, you're gonna market this. And I'm like, what is this? This is the dumbest thing ever. And they were basically guides for golfers to basically like learn how to shoot towards a direction, and you'd set them down around where you currently were, and they'd guide you towards your swing path, towards the hole, and all this kind of stuff. And I remember thinking, like, this is the dumbest thing ever. They're really hard to do photography and imagery on because they were just these dinky yellow rods and all of this kind of stuff. But those things sold. They sold like crazy. I mean, they're kind of like probably outdated and everyone's entered that market now. But it kind of told me something about this market, that sports training is a real market. And I've helped people make millions in this market. So it's just one of those things in general. Again, you start thinking about niches, and this is a niche when you're especially get down to training, but there's even sub-niches within this that I would even suggest to you too. So let's go ahead and jump into Jungle Scout, look and see what's going on there over here on this Jungle Scout. So what I did is I just really quickly wanted sports outdoors, hit training, and see what you start coming up with when you do that. WOD training, don't even know what that is necessarily, but there's a bunch of different things in here. Let's just see what WOD training is. I have no idea. Fit block. Okay. So there's well, obviously a Fitbit is doing a good amount of money because it's a Fitbit, is doing well. But fitness journal, $6,000 a month. Again, D-Goal, I don't know, it's skipping rope. That isn't amazing too. Almost like a third of $1 million per month just on something like that. Let's go ahead and skip on down and just, maybe pick something else that I don't know, might be interesting. Let's look here. Okay, so, I'm thinking right when I'm looking at this one, I'm thinking about, we just came out of COVID and people were all stuck in their homes and all of this kind of stuff. So this may or may not be a good product based on that, or a good niche be based on that. But what I'm seeing in here, okay, not bad. $25,000, $24,000 a month, $293,000, $344,000, $295,000. Again, that jump rope comes up. But it speaks to these different pieces of gear. It speaks to solving a problem. And again, this is part of what we're looking for. We're looking for that hungry market, first of all. Is the market hungry? Is it going to last for a while? People are going to always be interested in fitness because, Doritos and things like Doritos and ice cream, things like that exist. You're going to be interested in fitness whenever you're sitting there on the couch and you got Dorito stains all over your chest, and man, like, I got to change something. Let me go buy a jump rope or something like that, right? So there's obviously a hungry market. There will always be a hungry market, and this falls into one of those health, wealth, and relationships are the top three broad categories that people are always looking to solve, and realizing this is one of them. Health is absolutely a big one in there as far as that goes. So looking at that, we can see some numbers in here that I like about these. A couple of things we're noticing about these. When you get into these, you're seeing these larger solutions. Suspension trainer system, it gives you a bunch of different products. You're probably into a little bit towards a mid of a mature market and something like that. A simple jump rope is pretty awesome, so they must be doing something with that. But this is one of those markets that will always perform. And so, I really encourage you in that direction. Now, that said, again, you want to look at a space where you can dive into and become the expert. If it was just like CrossFit, when CrossFit came out, if you wanted to become the CrossFit product expert, that would have been a great way to do that, and would have launched you into a number of different things. Home training could be one of those, and that's kind of what we're looking at here is home training. These are things that can be done at home. It can be hung up on a rafter or anything like that. The skipping rope doesn't require anything else. You could become the home training expert, and always looking to solve problems in that niche, all right, when it comes to actual training and even specific training. So there's training and then there's home training. So it's a niche of a niche, and looking down and seeing what you can see that there are numbers here. which is what you want to be able to see, that there are real numbers and you got to find solutions to that. And I kind of encouraging that backwards thinking about like people's pain points. They're unhealthy, they're not happy. The doctor maybe yelled at them, said, you got to get off the couch and stop eating Doritos. So it's like, what am I going to do? I don't want to go to a gym. I hate gyms. Let me get a jump rope. Let me do whatever the case is. Let me hang something from my garage rafters and do something that way. And so they're thinking along these lines, and you need to be thinking along those lines too. All right, and now I promised you a very special bonus, so I'm going to jump into that bonus right now. This is super exciting for me because this is actually more of what probably be considered a do not do list, or to avoid until maybe you've kind of gone down the road and have some highly specialized skills and so forth. So this bonus is going to help you kind of guide you into what to avoid, even in the previous 7 that we've already gone over that are great categories and great niches, as you can probably tell. So this bonus is based on what not to do, and it is this: avoid fashion items. And what I mean by this are items that where fashion and styles and colors and very subjective things come into play, meaning you and I may decide that like this one's super good looking and this one's ugly, and you may think it's ugly, I may think it's good looking, and then on another version you may think it's that too. And really what I'm saying is on all the categories that we've kind of already discussed here, we were looking at beauty. Beauty, there aren't a lot of choices. You're looking at a solution. There's a solution to something they're dealing with. Dry skin, hands that are cracked and hurting, all of these kind of things. Color, fashion, all of those kind of styles don't really play into that. Dog grooming, the same type of thing. You're not dealing with color unless it's the collars, but even then, probably in collars, I would say avoid being in collars if you're seeing 5 pages of different colors of collars and styles and camouflage and all of that kind of stuff. Because what that means is that keyword itself is saturated and almost the effectiveness of it is dispersed and spread out over 3 or 4 pages. And if people have to do a lot of shopping, if they're doing 3 or 4 pages worth of shopping for the right collar, dog collar, even though it's in the dog category, might not be good, right? Supplements, health supplements, again, they're looking at solving a specific problem. They're not going to come in and care whether the bottle's pink, blue, black, anything else. They just want the actual solution. Again, groceries, they're looking for that particular item. Again, we had products from Japan, and I think a lot of candies and stuff in there. Now that may be flavors, but again, it's solving a bigger problem. They're actually looking for products specifically from Japan. So they're just happy to have products from Japan because they're not finding it represented anywhere in the United States. So it's not 3 pages deep of different candy options. If it is, maybe it's something you would consider not going for. Again, looking at office products, when we looked at those wheels, I don't think people cared about the colors of them. They wanted the solution. Is there 5 because I have 5 legs on my chair? Is that going to cover what I need to have it do? Pain management, again, the neck, any of the neck products or the ankle or the elbow products or anything like that, not necessarily going to care about colors. You could offer different colors, but they're there for the solution. They're there for, they've got this problem, and if they've got a neck roller or a neck arch or brace or anything like that, I don't think they're necessarily going to care what the color is. You could offer it in different colors, but they're going there for that specific solution. Again, sports training, there's a problem in their life, they're going for a solution. So that's kind of what I wanted to guide you to when I'm looking at this kind of bonus when you're talking about here. Avoid the subjective choices, avoid the multiple colors and multiple styles, because what you're going to see is, and even, let's just go and look at some right now. I pulled one up here. Clothing. I don't have sports and outdoors. I don't know why I did that, but let's just say socks, okay? So right here at the top, I'm seeing toilet paper sock design. Now, toilet paper socks, not exactly sure what they are, but what it did is it fed in toilet paper. Now, toilet paper is, obviously doing some money per month. These two are doing, 1 and 1.5 or 1.4, 1.7 per month. But let's look at socks, the actual socks. So I guess there's a style of toilet paper socks. There's one kind of novelty crew potty party socks, $300 per month. And part of this is because if I came on there looking for those, I'd probably be thinking in my mind, like, I'm looking for this thing that's kind of cool and it's got to fit my style. And there may be, something like 10 pages of different kinds of styles on something like that because it's very subjective. How that is very subjective. We could even look at, I don't know what this, Bombas men's socks. Okay, no sales whatsoever on that. Aqua men's socks. Okay. No sales on something like that. Again, very, very subjective. And so I'm basically saying that to just point out a point to you that, like, be careful when you're entering into those spaces. Those take specific kind of knowledge. Now, that's not to say they're impossible. I've actually made good money for clients in the socks, position number one, number two, an entire clothing category and all of that kind of stuff. But listen, that wasn't completely about me. I'm a good marketer. I knew how to position that. They didn't have these results before working together. But the reality is, the other part of it, this guy knew about socks. Mike knew about socks. He knows like everything there is about socks. He is a sock niche expert. All right. If you're coming into something and going to become the expert, it's going to take you a while to learn that information. So I'd say avoid those more subjective things. So go ahead and make sure you join that group, the Facebook group. Again, I have it on beta right now, but we're going to be introducing some really cool stuff into that. So check that out. I'm really super excited about this. You'll find out about this inside that group as well too. But anyways, until next time, I hope your sales are booming and your business is blessed, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.